The rain hammered against the windows, mirroring the tempest raging inside Elara. She huddled deeper into the worn armchair, the threadbare fabric offering little comfort against the chill that had settled in her bones. Liam was late, again. The familiar knot of anxiety tightened in her chest, a cruel reminder of the anxious attachment that had plagued her since childhood. Intellectually, she knew his tardiness was likely due to work, traffic, or any number of mundane reasons, but the abandonment wound, festering 4 years, whispered insidious doubts. He doesn't care. He's losing interest. You're not enough. Elara closed her eyes, willing the thoughts away. She had been working so hard in therapy to dismantle these toxic patterns, to cultivate a secure attachment within herself. But some days, like today, the old fears surged, threatening to pull her under. A sudden image flashed in her mind. Liam's face, contorted with a rage she hadn't known he possessed. The gaslighting had been subtle at first, a slow erosion of her reality. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things that never happened. But over time, it had escalated, leaving her questioning her sanity, her memories, her very worth. Isolated and desperate for his love, she had become a willing participant in her own emotional destruction. Codependency had wrapped its insidious tendrils around her, blurring the lines between her needs and his, until she had all but disappeared. The sound of a key turning in the lock jolted her back to the present. Liam strode in, weariness etched on his face. "Sorry I'm late," he mumbled, tossing his keys onto the table. Meeting ran over. Elara watched him, her heart pounding. She knew she should set a boundary, assert her needs, but the words caught in her throat. The fear of his reaction, the ingrained habit of prioritizing his comfort over her own, held her captive. But then, something shifted within her. A flicker of defiance, a spark of self-preservation. She remembered her therapist's words. "You are worthy of love and respect. Your feelings matter." Taking a deep breath, she spoke, her voice trembling but firm. "Liam," she said, "we need to talk." The journey to healing would be long and arduous, she knew. But in that moment, standing in the rain-streaked light of her small apartment, Elara finally understood that she deserved more than crumbs of affection, more than a distorted reality. She deserved a love that was honest, respectful, and, above all, safe. And she was finally ready to fight for it. "I can't do this anymore," Elara began, the words catching in her throat. "I can't keep living in this twisted version of reality you've created." She paused, gathering her courage, the weight of her next words pressing down. "I love you, Liam, I truly do. But I can't love someone who manipulates me, who makes me question my own sanity." Liam's face crumpled, a mask of confusion and hurt. "What are you talking about, Elara? I would never do anything to hurt you." Elara shook her head, a sad smile playing on her lips. "That's the thing, Liam. You don't even realize you're doing it, do you? The gaslighting, the constant undermining of my feelings, it's not love, it's control." She saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes, quickly masked by denial, and her heart clenched. It was a cycle she knew all too well. "I've been doing some reading," she continued, her voice stronger now, fueled by a newfound understanding, about attachment theory, about how our early childhood experiences shape our relationships, and about gaslighting. She watched Liam carefully, seeing the subtle shift in his posture, the tightening of his jaw. "I realized that I have an anxious attachment style, a deep-seated fear of abandonment that makes me vulnerable to your tactics." Liam stepped closer, his hand reaching out to cup her face, but she flinched away. "Elara, please, don't do this. We can work through this. I'll change, I promise." "It's not about changing, Liam," she said, her voice laced with weariness. "It's about recognizing the patterns, the unhealthy dynamics that have defined our relationship from the start. The possessiveness, the jealousy, it's not love, it's fear. And I can't keep living in fear." She took a step back, creating a physical distance between them, a symbol of the emotional distance she was determined to create. "I need to find someone who can love me securely, someone who doesn't need to control me to feel loved. And you, Liam, You need to address your own issues, your own fears, before you can truly love anyone. What are you saying, Elara? Liam's voice was barely a whisper, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Are you breaking up with me? Elara nodded, tears streaming down her face, a mixture of sadness and relief. Yes, Liam, I am. It's the hardest decision I've ever made, but it's the right one. For both of us. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with heartache and uncertainty. But for the first time in a long time, Elara felt a flicker of hope, a belief that she was finally on the path to finding a love that was true, honest, and, above all, healthy. A love where she could be herself, without fear, without manipulation, without the constant questioning of her own reality. Elara knew leaving Liam meant facing a storm of emotions, but she was armed with newfound knowledge. She understood attachment theory now, recognizing how her anxious attachment style had drawn her to Liam's avoidant tendencies, creating a push-pull dynamic that left her constantly craving reassurance. She saw how his possessiveness and jealousy weren't signs of love, but manifestations of his own deep-seated insecurities and need for control. The gaslighting, the emotional manipulation, she could finally name them, understand their insidious nature, and acknowledge the damage they had inflicted on her psyche. The relationship had been a masterclass in codependency. She had become so enmeshed in Liam's needs, so focused on fixing him, that she had lost sight of herself. She had walked on eggshells, anticipating his moods, sacrificing her own desires and boundaries in a futile attempt to keep the peace. It was a twisted dance, fueled by her own fear of abandonment and his need for a validation. Elara shuddered, recalling moments when she had felt trapped, almost as if she were developing a strange sense of loyalty toward Liam, despite his hurtful behavior. Was that Stockholm Syndrome? The thought sent a chill down her spine. No, she wouldn't let that define her. She would reclaim her narrative, rewrite her story. She knew healing wouldn't be linear. There would be days when the loneliness was overwhelming, when the urge to reach out to Liam was almost unbearable. But she would remind herself of the psychological effects of isolation, the importance of forging healthy connections with people who nurtured her soul, who saw her for who she truly was. She would learn to set healthy boundaries, to communicate her needs assertively, and to protect her emotional well-being. Elara would seek therapy, unpack the trauma, and learn to trust her own intuition again. She would rediscover her passions, reconnect with her friends, and rebuild her life, brick by brick, with self-love as her foundation. This wasn't just about leaving Liam. It was about finding herself, about creating a future where she was the author of her own happiness, free from the chains of manipulation and control. It was about choosing a love that was gentle, kind, and real, a love that started with herself. Perhaps, somewhere down the line, she finds someone who sees her strength, resilience, and capacity for love not as weaknesses to be exploited, but as treasures to be cherished. Someone who understands that love isn't about control or possession, but about mutual respect, unwavering support, and the freedom to be her authentic self. Someone who sees her scars not as imperfections, but as testaments to her survival, courage, and unbreakable spirit. Maybe, just maybe, she stumbled upon a love that feels like coming home, a safe harbor, where she can finally lay down her burdens, shed her armor, and simply be, without fear or reservation. A love that nurtures her soul, celebrates her victories, and holds her hand through life's inevitable storms. A love that reflects the self-love she has cultivated. A love that is gentle, kind, and real. And in that love, she won't lose herself, but find herself even more profoundly, blossoming into the woman she was always meant to be. A woman who knows her worth, honors her boundaries, and walks through life with her head held high, her heart open, and her spirit soaring. A woman who is, at long last, truly free. When he finally arrives, this man who sees her, cherishes her, and loves her without condition, she recognizes him not as a savior, but as a fellow traveler on this journey of life. He won't complete her, for she is already whole, but he will complement her, adding depth, color and richness to the tapestry of her existence. He'll understand her anxious heart, the way it races with a longing for connection, a fear of abandonment that whispers in the quiet moments. He won't recoil from her vulnerability, but embrace it, offering reassurance and stability, a safe harbor in the storm. He'll know, instinctively, when to hold her close and when to give her space, respecting her need for independence even as he cherishes her presence in his life. And she, in turn, will learn to trust him, to let go of the need to control, to surrender to the exquisite vulnerability of being truly seen and loved. She challenged her avoidant tendencies, the walls she's built around her heart to protect herself from pain. She dismantled them brick by brick, allowing him to enter her world, to share her dreams and her fears, to witness the raw, authentic beauty of her soul. There will be moments of doubt, whispers of old wounds that threaten to resurface, the gaslighting of the past, the emotional manipulation that chipped away at her self-worth, the codependent patterns that bound her to those who didn't truly see her. All these ghosts will try to haunt her present, but she be armed with the knowledge of her worth, the strength of her boundaries, and the unwavering support of a partner who believes in her, even when she struggles to believe in herself. Together, they'll navigate the complexities of trauma, the echoes of past hurts that reverberate through their present. They won't shy away from the pain, but face it head-on, with compassion and understanding, creating a safe space for healing and growth. They'll learn to speak each other's language of love, to communicate their needs and desires with honesty and vulnerability, fostering a connection built on trust, respect, and mutual admiration. And in the quiet moments, when the world fades away and only their hearts remain, they'll find solace in each other's arms. They'll celebrate the small victories, the moments of connection, the shared laughter that fills their home with warmth and light. They'll weather the storms together, hand in hand, knowing that their love is a beacon, guiding them through the darkness and toward a brighter tomorrow. For this isn't a fairy tale, but a love story grounded in reality, a testament to the power of healing, the resilience of the human spirit, and the transformative potential of a love that is both fierce and gentle, a love that sets you free. And so, they embarked on a journey of healing, armed with the knowledge of attachment theory, understanding the dance of anxious and avoidant tendencies within themselves and each other. They learned to recognize the insidious nature of gaslighting, vowing to create a space of unwavering truth and validation. Boundaries, once blurred and indistinct, were now carefully drawn, not as walls of separation, but as lines of respect and self-preservation. They navigated the treacherous waters of emotional manipulation, recognizing the subtle ways in which their vulnerabilities could be exploited, and instead chose to cultivate a garden of self-love and self-compassion. For they knew that true love begins within, a wellspring of kindness and understanding that overflows onto others. The shadows of codependency and Stockholm Syndrome loomed large, remnants of past traumas that threatened to engulf them. But they faced these demons head-on, with unwavering courage and a commitment to breaking free from the chains of unhealthy attachments. They learned to distinguish between genuine connection and coercion disguised as love, guided by the wisdom of experts who challenge traditional views and shed light on the complexities of trauma bonding. And when the weight of isolation threatened to crush their spirits, they turned to each other, finding solace and strength in their shared vulnerability. They understood the profound impact of social connection on mental and physical health, knowing that their love was not just a romantic ideal, but a lifeline in a world that often feels cold and indifferent. Together, they confronted the ghosts of PTSD, armed with research on trauma and its effects on the brain and body. They embraced personalized treatment approaches, recognizing that healing is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but a deeply personal journey of self-discovery and growth. They learned to speak the language of assertiveness, expressing their needs and desires with clarity and empathy, fostering a relationship built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. And amidst the shadows of their past, they discovered the radiant power of self-love and self-compassion. They learned to embrace their imperfections, to forgive themselves for past mistakes, and to nurture their inner selves with kindness and understanding. They realized that self-love isn't selfish, but rather a foundation upon which healthy, fulfilling relationships are built. As they navigated the complexities of their intertwined lives, they stumbled upon a quaint bookshop, its shelves overflowing with stories of love, loss, and redemption. A worn copy of Yours to Keep caught Elara's eye, its title resonating with a longing she had kept hidden for so long. Intrigued, she began to read, and as she delved into the pages, she found a mirror reflecting her own journey of healing and self-discovery. The story spoke of a love that defied the odds, a connection forged in the crucible of shared pain and trauma. It whispered of the courage to confront one's demons, to embrace vulnerability, and to believe in the possibility of a love that heals and transforms. With each chapter, Elara felt a stirring within her, a renewed sense of hope that perhaps she and Julian could create their own version of Yours to Keep. A love story written in the ink of resilience, compassion, and unwavering devotion. Elara knew their path wouldn't be easy. It was a journey through the minefield of emotional manipulation, the sticky trap of trauma bonds, and the lingering darkness of PTSD. She understood Julian, like so many who'd suffered deeply, might have unknowingly used defense mechanisms to control his environment in a world that had felt overwhelmingly chaotic. Guilt trips, gaslighting, even the silent treatment. These weren't weapons of malice, but shields forged in the crucible of past pain. But Elara also saw the profound potential for healing within them both. Self-love and self-compassion weren't just empty words, but essential tools for dismantling the walls around their hearts. They would practice mindfulness, challenge the negative self-talk that echoed in their minds, and embrace radical self-care, accepting their imperfections as integral to their unique and beautiful story. Codependency, with its tangled web of emotional reliance and blurred boundaries, threatened to ensnare them. Elara vowed to build a relationship on mutual respect and autonomy, where each could flourish as individuals while nurturing their connection. They would learn to set healthy boundaries, communicate their needs assertively, and cultivate a sense of self-worth independent of the other's approval. The specter of Stockholm Syndrome, that unsettling phenomenon where victims develop affection for their abusers, served as a stark reminder of the mind's ability to adapt and survive. Even in the most harrowing circumstances, Elara understood Julian's past might have blurred the lines of power and control, fostering a misplaced sense of loyalty. Trauma bonding, with its insidious cycles of abuse and reconciliation, threatened to keep them trapped in a painful dance. Elara knew they had to break free, to rewrite their attachment styles with intention and care. They would confront their past traumas head-on, seeking professional guidance to untangle the knots of fear and insecurity that bound them. Yet, amidst the darkness, Elara saw sparks of hope. She knew social connection was a potent antidote to the isolation and despair that trauma often breeds. They would build a support network of friends, family, and therapists, creating a safe haven where they could share their vulnerabilities and find solace in shared experiences. Elara also understood the neurobiological impact of trauma, how it could rewire the brain and disrupt the body's natural stress response. They would explore therapeutic interventions to remap neural pathways, fostering resilience and emotional regulation through talk therapy, perhaps even medication. They would work to quiet the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason and emotional control. Forgiveness, both of themselves and those who had harmed them, was paramount. Elara knew holding on to resentment would only perpetuate the cycle of pain. They would learn to acknowledge their mistakes, understand the context in which they occurred, and extend themselves the same compassion they would offer a dear friend. With unwavering determination, Elara resolved to embark on this journey with Julian. They would face their demons together, armed with knowledge, compassion, and an unyielding belief in the transformative power of love. They would create their own definition of Yours to Keep, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, a love story written in the language of healing, resilience, and unwavering devotion. And so, they began. Elara, ever the pragmatist, immersed herself in research. She devoured articles on emotional manipulation, her heart aching as she recognized the insidious tactics Julian had unknowingly employed. She learned about gaslighting, the silent treatment, and love bombing, each word a painful echo of their past. But she didn't stop there. She delved into the psychology of self-love and self-compassion, understanding that true healing began with accepting and cherishing oneself. Julian, meanwhile, grappled with the concept of codependency. He saw how his own deep-seated need to please, to fix, had blurred the lines of their relationship. He recognized the unequal power dynamic, the way he had placed Elara's needs above his own, ultimately suffocating them both. He wrestled with the fear of abandonment, the root of his desperate need to control. They explored the dark corners of Stockholm Syndrome and trauma bonding, concepts that chilled them to the bone. Could their love, born amidst such turmoil, truly be salvaged? Was it possible to break free from the chains of the past and forge a new future? Elara, drawing upon her innate empathy, reminded Julian that understanding was the first step towards healing. They learned about the neurobiology of trauma, how their brains had been rewired by pain, how the amygdala had become hyperactive, the prefrontal cortex weakened, but they also learned about the brain's remarkable capacity for resilience, its ability to form new neural pathways, to heal, and to grow. Together, they practiced assertiveness techniques, learning to express their needs and boundaries with clarity and respect. They discovered the power of I statements, the importance of active listening, the subtle language of nonverbal cues. It was clumsy at first, filled with missteps and misunderstandings, but with each attempt, they grew stronger, more confident, more connected. Then, they turned to the daunting task of forgiveness, not just forgiving each other, but forgiving themselves. Elara had to forgive herself for staying, for enduring, for believing she could fix Julian. Julian had to forgive himself for the pain he had caused, for the manipulative behaviors he had unknowingly adopted. They learned that self-forgiveness wasn't about condoning their actions, but about releasing the self-resentment, the guilt, and the shame that had been poisoning their souls. It was about accepting what had happened, learning from it, and using it as a springboard for personal growth. They discovered the profound impact of social connection, the vital role that friends and family played in their healing journey. They leaned on their support network, sharing their struggles, seeking guidance, and finding solace in the knowledge that they were not alone. They understood that love, in its purest form, was not about possession or control, but about connection, empathy, and unwavering support. They embarked on a journey of self-discovery, delving into the intricate workings of their own minds and hearts. They confronted the emotional manipulation they had endured, recognizing the insidious tactics of guilt-tripping, gaslighting, and love bombing that had once held them captive. They learned to identify the red flags, to trust their instincts, and to set firm boundaries that would protect them from further harm. They explored the psychology of self-love and self-compassion, realizing that true healing could only begin when they embraced their own worthiness and treated themselves with the same kindness and understanding they would offer a dear friend. They challenged the negative self-talk that had plagued them for so long, replacing it with affirmations of self-acceptance and self-respect. They practiced mindfulness, grounding themselves in the present moment and finding solace in the simple joys of life. They confronted the codependency that had entangled them in unhealthy relationships, recognizing the patterns of caretaking, people-pleasing, and boundary blurring that had eroded their sense of self. They learned to prioritize their own needs, to assert their boundaries with grace and firmness, and to cultivate a healthy sense of independence. They grappled with the complexities of trauma bonding, understanding how the cycles of abuse and reconciliation had created a deep emotional attachment to their abuser. They sought therapy to process the trauma, to unravel the tangled web of emotions, and to break free from the chains of the past. They discovered the power of assertiveness, learning to express their thoughts and needs confidently while respecting the boundaries of others. They honed their communication skills, mastering the art of active listening, using I statements, and expressing their opinions with clarity and respect. They delved into the neurobiology of trauma, understanding how the traumatic experiences had altered their brain structure and function. They learned about the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex, and how these areas had been affected by the trauma. They discovered that therapeutic interventions can rewire neural pathways, fostering resilience and promoting healing. They explored the psychology of forgiveness and self-forgiveness, realizing that holding on to resentment and bitterness would only prolong their suffering. They learned to forgive their abuser, not as an act of condoning their behavior, but as an act of liberating themselves from the shackles of anger and resentment. And most importantly, they learned to forgive themselves for the mistakes they had made, for the choices they had regretted, and for the pain they had endured. They embraced self-forgiveness as a pathway to emotional healing, mental well-being, and personal growth. They realized that holding on to resentment and bitterness would only prolong their suffering. They learned to forgive their abuser, not as an act of condoning their behavior, but as an act of liberating themselves from the shackles of anger and resentment. And most importantly, they learned to forgive themselves for the mistakes they had made, for the choices they had regretted, and for the pain they had endured. They embraced self-forgiveness as a pathway to emotional healing, mental well-being, and personal growth. It was about accepting what had happened, learning from it, and using it as a springboard for personal development. Practicing self-forgiveness is linked to improved self-esteem, reduced anxiety, and increased emotional resilience. They acknowledged their mistakes, understood the context in which they occurred, took responsibility for their actions, showed themselves compassion, learned from their errors, and ultimately let go of the past. This act of self-compassion strengthens their prefrontal cortex, the part of their brain responsible for decision-making, and quiets their amygdala, the fear center that had been on high alert for far too long, leading to improved self-esteem, reduced anxiety, and enhanced emotional resilience. Individuals learn to acknowledge their mistakes, understand the context surrounding them, take responsibility for their actions, extend compassion to themselves, learn from their errors, and ultimately release the grip of the past. This act of self-compassion strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the brain's decision-making center, while calming the amygdala, the fear center that has been on high alert for too long. As the amygdala quiets, the hippocampus, often diminished by trauma's relentless assault on memory, begins to recover, to breathe, and to weave new narratives of safety and hope. Neural pathways, once tangled and choked by fear, begin to clear, opening to the possibility of connection, trust, and love. This is neuroplasticity in action, the brain, remarkably resilient, rewriting its story, one synapse at a time. But the journey doesn't end with the self. It extends outward, touching the lives of those who have been wounded, those who struggle to believe in the possibility of healing. Forgiveness, of both self and others, emerges as a vital component, a conscious decision to release the painful ties that bind us to the past. It is not condoning, not forgetting, but freeing ourselves from the chains of resentment, allowing us to move forward with open hearts. Like the comforting lyrics of a song, it's a gentle reminder that even in the darkest of times, love endures, offering solace and promising a future designed together. It is the promise of attachment, once shattered by trauma, now rebuilt on a foundation of trust and vulnerability. It's the courage to navigate conflict, to communicate openly, to overcome the fears that have haunted us. It's the understanding that we are not defined by our past, but by our capacity to heal, to love, and to be loved in return. This love is all-encompassing and enduring, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is the journey of self-forgiveness, releasing the self-resentment, guilt, and shame that have weighed heavily on our hearts. It is accepting our mistakes, acknowledging our value despite them, and understanding that we are all works in progress, constantly learning and growing. It is recognizing that forgiving ourselves is not excusing our actions, but freeing ourselves from the mental barriers that prevent us from fully embracing life. This reflects the power of neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize and adapt, creating new patterns of thinking and responding. It reflects the healing that comes from trauma-focused therapy and mindfulness practices, strengthening the neural connections between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, enabling better emotional control. It reflects the realization that the brain changes resulting from trauma are more reversible than previously thought, and that resilience is often observed. Here, in this space of vulnerability and trust, we can rewrite our story. The amygdala, once hyperactive, can find its balance. The hippocampus, once diminished, can begin to flourish, restoring our capacity for memory and emotional regulation. The prefrontal cortex, once impaired, can regain its strength, empowering us to make sound judgments and regulate our emotions. And as we move forward, hand in hand, we carry with us the lessons of our past, not as burdens, but as badges of honor. For we have learned that love is not just a feeling, but a choice. A choice to forgive, to heal, to grow, and to create a future filled with hope, joy, and unwavering love. We are not defined by our trauma, but by our triumph over it. We are not broken, but beautifully pieced together, potentially stronger and more resilient than before. And in each other's arms, we can find our sanctuary, our home, our forever. The amygdala, once a sentinel of fear, now whispers tales of resilience, its hyperactivity tempered by the gentle hand of understanding. The hippocampus, scarred by memories, begins to bloom anew, its pathways reforged with the promise of healing. The prefrontal cortex, once dimmed by trauma, ignites with newfound clarity, guiding us towards sound judgment and emotional regulation. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to adapt and transform, becomes our guiding light. Like artists sculpting masterpieces from broken fragments, we reshape our neural landscapes, creating pathways of hope and healing. Our movement desensitization and reprocessing EMDR, a gentle dance between memory and emotion, strengthens the connections between our amygdala and prefrontal cortex, empowering us to navigate the storms within. Forgiveness, a profound act of self-liberation, washes over us, releasing the shackles of resentment and pain. We embrace the perspective of those who have caused us harm, not to excuse their actions, but to free ourselves from their grip. Self-forgiveness, a balm for the wounded soul, allows us to release the weight of guilt and shame, embracing our imperfections with compassion and grace. The impact of childhood trauma, once a shadow looming over our relationships, begins to fade. We learn to navigate conflict with newfound understanding, communicate with authenticity and vulnerability, and build trust with unwavering commitment. Attachment theory, a map to our emotional hearts, guides us toward secure and loving connections, healing the wounds of the past. And as we stand here, hand in hand, hearts intertwined, we hear the echoes of Grant Perez's song, Yours to Keep, a melody of enduring love and unwavering devotion. I designed a future, holding you in mind. The lyrics resonate, a testament to the love we have cultivated, a future we have built together, brick by brick, with forgiveness, resilience, and unwavering hope. The path to love is not without its thorns. Trauma, like a relentless storm, can leave lasting scars on our minds and hearts. The intricate dance between trauma bonding and the echoes of childhood wounds can cast long shadows on our relationships. Trauma bonding, an insidious tie that binds the abused to their abuser, weaves a web of emotional dependency through cycles of affection and cruelty. It's a bond forged in the crucible of pain, where the need for closure can trap victims in a cycle of abuse. Understanding this dark dynamic is the first step toward breaking free, toward reclaiming one's sense of self and identity. Within the depths of our brains, the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex bear the brunt of trauma's impact. The amygdala, our emotional sentinel, becomes hyperactive, amplifying fear and reactivity. The hippocampus, the architect of our memories, shrinks, distorting our ability to recall and contextualize the past. And the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason and emotional regulation, falters, leaving us struggling to navigate our emotions and make sound judgments. Even in the face of such profound challenges, there is hope. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to adapt and reorganize, offers a pathway to healing. Through trauma-focused therapy, mindfulness practices, and the strengthening of neural connections, we can rewrite the narrative of our brains, forging new patterns of thinking and responding. Forgiveness, both of others and of ourselves, emerges as a vital component of this healing journey. Forgiveness is not about excusing harm or reconciling with abusers, but about releasing the grip of resentment and embracing self-compassion. It's about nurturing our wounded spirits, finding purpose in our pain, and opening ourselves to the possibility of connection and love. Childhood trauma can cast a long shadow on adult relationships, making it difficult to trust, to be vulnerable, and to form healthy bonds. Yet, by understanding the impact of our past, by acknowledging our wounds, and by seeking support and healing, we can break free from the cycle of trauma and create space for secure and loving connections. Attachment theory reminds us that our early relationships shape our ability to regulate emotions, trust others, and cope with stress. By understanding our attachment styles and addressing any disruptions in our early bonding experiences, we can cultivate healthier patterns of relating and build a foundation for lasting love. Like a melody carried on the wind, Grant Perez is yours to keep echoes the silent vows we make in our hearts. It speaks of shared moments, a future painted with the colors of commitment, and a love so profound it transcends ownership. This heart's not only mine anymore, the lyrics whisper. It's yours until the day my heart no longer beats. It's yours to keep. But what happens when that heart, meant to be a sanctuary, becomes a battleground? Trauma, like a relentless storm, can disrupt the delicate balance of our minds and bodies. Our primal alarm system, the amygdala, becomes hyperactive, forever scanning for threats in a world that should feel safe. The hippocampus, responsible for weaving our memories into a coherent narrative, falters, leaving us with fragmented, intrusive images that haunt our waking hours. Consequently, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason and emotional regulation, struggles to regain control, leaving us vulnerable to impulsive decisions and overwhelming emotions. Trauma bonding, a cruel paradox, can shackle us to those who inflict pain, creating a twisted sense of loyalty born from cycles of abuse and fleeting moments of kindness. It's a bond forged in the fires of fear and dependence, leaving scars that run deeper than any physical wound. Depression, anxiety, and the insidious potential for intergenerational abuse become unwelcome companions on our journey. Yet, even in the darkest depths, there is hope. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to heal and adapt, offers a path towards recovery. Like a sculptor reshaping clay, we can create new neural connections, forging healthier patterns of thinking and responding. Regular exercise, like a gentle rain nourishing parched earth, boosts mood and cognitive function. Mindfulness practices, like a beacon in the storm, guide us back to the present moment, fostering self-compassion and emotional regulation. Trauma-focused therapies, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT and eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing EMDR, act as skilled guides, helping us navigate the treacherous terrain of our past. They leverage the power of neuroplasticity to process traumatic memories and develop healthier coping mechanisms. As we heal, as we rewire our brains and reclaim our sense of self, we can begin to rewrite our attachment stories. By understanding how our early relationships have shaped our ability to connect with others, we can cultivate healthier patterns of relating, building a foundation for lasting love and secure attachment. We learn to trust again, to open our hearts without fear, knowing that we are worthy of love and belonging. For love, like the most resilient of flowers, can bloom even in the most barren landscapes. It requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to confront our deepest wounds. But with each step we take towards healing, with each act of self-compassion, we create space for love to flourish, to blossom into a force that is both fierce and tender, a love that is truly ours to keep. The science of healing, once a mystery, now whispers its secrets to us. Trauma, that insidious thief of joy, etches its mark upon the very architecture of our minds. The ever-vigilant amygdala remains hyperactive, forever scanning the horizon for threats that may no longer exist. The hippocampus, keeper of memories, struggles to weave a coherent narrative from the fragments of the past. The prefrontal cortex, the conductor of our emotions, falters, leaving us adrift in a sea of overwhelming feelings. Yet, even in this landscape of brokenness, hope persists. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to reshape itself, offers a path towards recovery. Like a sculptor coaxing form from clay, we can mold new neural connections, forging healthier patterns of thought and behavior. Mindfulness, a gentle practice of presence, anchors us in the here and now, calming the storm within. Therapy, a beacon of guidance, illuminates the path towards healing, helping us to process our pain and reclaim our power. Attachment theory reminds us that our earliest bonds shape our capacity for connection. Secure attachment, a foundation built on trust and love, allows us to form healthy relationships, to open our hearts without fear. But even if our early experiences were less than ideal, we can still cultivate secure attachments in adulthood, learning to trust, to communicate our needs, and to navigate the complexities of intimacy. And then there is love, that most potent of healers. Like a song, it speaks of commitment, of shared moments, of a future designed together. It is a love that transcends the wounds of the past, a love that embraces our imperfections, a love that says, "This heart's not only mine anymore, it's yours until the day my heart no longer beats. It's yours to keep." For in the embrace of love, we find the courage to heal, to grow, and to become the best versions of ourselves. Healing is not a singular event. It is a journey through the intricate pathways of our minds. Trauma, with its insidious grip, can alter the very architecture of our brains. It can forge unhealthy bonds, trapping us in cycles of abuse, where affection and pain become indistinguishable. It can hyperactivate our amygdala, turning the world into a landscape of potential threats, or shrink our hippocampus, blurring the lines of memory and reality. It can even impair our prefrontal cortex, diminishing our ability to reason and regulate our emotions. Yet, the brain possesses an extraordinary gift: neuroplasticity. It is the ability to rewire itself, to forge new connections, to heal. Like a garden, it can be cultivated with care, nurtured with mindfulness, and pruned with therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR. These are not just treatments. They are tools that unlock the brain's innate capacity for renewal. Attachment theory speaks to the profound impact of our earliest bonds. Secure attachment, born of trust and love, lays the foundation for healthy relationships. But insecure attachments, characterized by fear and uncertainty, can lead us down paths of dysfunction and pain. Yet, even these patterns can be rewritten, reshaped by the healing power of self-awareness and compassionate connection. Mindfulness, that gentle art of being present, offers solace to the wounded mind. It allows us to observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment, to breathe through the storms of the past, and to find stillness in the present moment. It is a path to self-compassion, a reminder that we are worthy of love and healing. And so, we come full circle, back to love. Not just romantic love, but love in all its forms. Self-love, familial love, platonic love. For it is in the embrace of love that we find the courage to face our demons, to forgive ourselves and others, and to reclaim our lives. It is love that whispers, "You are not broken, you are not alone, you are worthy of healing." And it is love that reminds us that, even in the darkest of times, hope remains, a beacon in the night, guiding us towards the dawn. And so, We come full circle, back to love, not just romantic love, but love in all its forms, self-love, familial love, platonic love, for it is in the embrace of love that we find the courage to face our demons, to forgive ourselves and others, and to reclaim our lives. It is love that whispers, "You are not broken, you are not alone, you are worthy of healing." And it is love that reminds us that, even in the darkest of times, hope remains, a beacon in the night, guiding us towards the dawn. But what of the science behind this healing? What whispers do our brains carry, echoing the heart's longing for a wholeness? Trauma, that insidious thief, can forge bonds in the most unlikely of places, creating a twisted loyalty to those who inflict pain. Trauma bonding, a cruel paradox, where the abused clings to the abuser, mistaking shards of kindness for genuine affection, is a dance of intermittent reinforcement, a siren song of reward and punishment that traps the soul. The amygdala, that vigilant sentinel, forever on guard, can become hyperactive, perceiving threats where none exist. Every shadow becomes a monster, every whisper a scream. Memories, once neatly filed, become fragmented, intrusive, replaying like a broken record, each spin more agonizing than the last. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, the librarian of our minds, struggles to consolidate these fractured narratives, leaving us adrift in a sea of disjointed moments. The prefrontal cortex, the conductor of our emotional orchestra, falters, losing its ability to regulate the storm within. Impulsivity reigns, decisions become clouded, and self-control wanes. Yet, even in this landscape of devastation, hope flickers. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to rewire itself, offers a path forward. New connections can be forged, healthier patterns established. Like a sculptor, we can reshape our minds, molding them into vessels of resilience. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT and eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing EMD have become our chisels, carefully dismantling the old, maladaptive structures and building anew. Mindfulness practices, like gentle rains, nourish the soil of our minds, fostering self-compassion and emotional regulation. Attachment theory reminds us of the profound impact of early bonds, urging us to seek secure connections, to heal the wounds of the past, and to cultivate relationships built on trust and mutual respect. And then there's the music, a melody, a lyric, a voice that resonates with the deepest parts of our being. A song, a testament to love's enduring power, a promise whispered in the dark. This heart's not only mine anymore, it's yours until the day my heart no longer beats. It's yours to keep, a reminder that we are not alone in this journey. That love, in its purest form, is a sanctuary, a safe harbor in the storm. It is a beacon, guiding us towards healing, towards wholeness, towards the dawn of a new day.